Cuba, in principle, has no obvious domestic or geopolitical interest in what happens in the Middle East. The country is thousands of miles away from Israel, and it does not have a significant Muslim or Arab population. Yet at the UN, it has been a lead critic of the Jewish state. Cuban behavior has provided an insight into the dynamics of infanticide of the newborn Council, the effect that anti-Zionism is having in undermining global institutional structures supporting human rights. Now, anti-Zionism did not make or maintain Cuba as a human rights violator, but it did allow Cuba to hornswoggle its way into the Council and join the chorus of mischief makers once it got there. Anti-Zionism for Cuba became the tactic of choice to prevent its being held to account for its violations. Victims of human rights violations in Cuba likely do not see anti-Zionism as in part responsible for their victimization. Yet the workings of the UN Human Rights Council show that it is. In June 2007, the UN Human Rights Council voted to drop the special procedure on Cuba, which the old Human Rights Commission had established. Though no reasons were given for this decision, I venture to suggest that the primary reason for many members of the Commission was the strident anti-Zionism Cuba had manifested. In some states, parliamentarians are immune from prosecution. This immunity leads gangsters, organized crime, known criminals to seek election to these parliaments as a way of escaping justice, and we see this in many countries of the former Soviet Union. Something similar happened with the UN Human Rights Commission and is now happening with the UN Human Rights Council. Both the Commission and the Council have attracted to their membership gangster states who want to join to get immunity for themselves, and their vehicle of immunity is anti-Zionism. Well, where do we go from here? The Council has existed now only a year, but already we can see it is a failure, indeed even worse a failure than the Human Rights Commission was. It's natural for the Jewish community to focus on anti-Semitism, but the use of anti-Semitism by human rights violators to shield themselves mean that anti-Semitism has to be a focus for all victim communities, all those concerned with the promotion of human rights. The change from Commission to Council at the UN shows us that tinkering with the mechanics of institutional reform at the UN is not going to get us very far as long as anti-Zionism is rampant. The true path to UN reform to global respect for human rights is combating anti-Zionism. The danger here is not just the sequential victimization which Reverend Martin Niemöller decried and the loss of the potential for solidarity because likely allies have already disappeared. The problem is more immediate and sweeping than that. Right now, anti-Zionism is not just an obstacle for the Jewish state and the Jewish people. It is an obstacle to respect for human rights generally. Human rights organizations and victim groups, no matter what their specific agenda, need to combat anti-Zionism to realize that agenda globally. Anyone who proclaims their support for human rights around the world but puts the struggle against anti-Zionism to one side is either oblivious to the world around them or hypocritical in their proclaimed adherence to global respect for human rights. Truly caring about universal respect for human rights today means combating anti-Zionism. Thank you very much.